Well, welcome, Falcon fans. Week 5 of the Falcon football season, and we're off to a blazing start, Coach. Great win last week in Borger.
Thank you. Yeah, it's always good to go 4-0, win, each game at a time. But, 4-0 is, something to be proud of. That's what I told the kids, that they earned it. They did this, put the work in. So, we're proud of them. But, like you said, every week we still got a long ways to go.
This is that point in the season where it's starting to, the bumps and bruises are starting to add up, and there's a lot of hype over Dumas. But how much of a temptation is it to play everybody versus balancing, obviously, the goal first, and you talk about it every week, first goal is win district. And so with as big of a matchup, is it tempted to send some guys out that maybe you really want to rest, or is it really focused on district still?
No, I think, we're trying to, in a perfect world, we're trying to get the win every week. We're trying to play as many people as we can every week and the most amount of snaps. But, each week is different, how it all plays out, and you don't know. So, I think trying to get everybody, you look back at last week and, we got a lot of guys, a lot of snaps last week, which you need. It'll benefit you later on down the road, and those guys get snaps. And whether, those guys end up coming in a district ball game or the playoffs. So, trying to get – it's a tough balance, but, like you said, you're trying to go out there and win every Friday. And I think we do a good job of trying to rotate guys even, early in the game to keep us fresh. You'll notice on our offensive line, we roll some guys. Charlie would generally start the game at tackle. Then before you know it, we have guys rolling in with 10 to keep him fresh on defense. So that just helps us as a team in the long run.
And I think that's kind of, last week kind of is what spurred that, because I felt like when I looked down the sideline, you were able to get a couple guys that maybe banged up, JT, a couple of those guys that probably needed a week off. You were able to get that with them. Yeah,
JT's a competitor. He wanted to be out there. He was feeling better, last Friday, but – we talked to our trainers, Toby Browder and Ron Halsey, and, they do a great job for us. And we stay in touch with them and the kids, obviously. And JT wanted to go. He wanted to be out there, but we just felt like, it would be better in the long run. We don't have a bye this year, again, until we play all 10 games. So we have to be intelligent about how we get kids back and how we use them. So, we just decided, not only JT but a couple of other ones, just to give them that one more Friday night off to, maybe hopefully be back this week, and give some other kids an opportunity as well.
Is it when you get into games like that, where you get up pretty quick and you're able to rotate it, getting that second string quarterback in there to get the reps with the first string, which we talked about a little bit. How important is that for him to be able to get that rhythm with that first string even?
Yeah, I think we talked about that last week, talked about Jesse and what a great job he's done for us, on the field, that, as a leader coming in, that, really didn't know these guys until, last spring sometime when he moved in. So, for sure in the quarterback position, getting those reps, learning how to just getting those signals from the coaches on the sidelines, communicating the play, the pass protections, all that stuff with the linemen, is that's a big part of what he needs to learn, and he's done a good job with that. But any of those guys, just getting the game experience is a lot different. You can get better in practice, through your reps and your fundamentals, but the game experience, that you can get right now makes you more comfortable when you have to come in and do it in a district or playoff game. So that's, like I said, it's a great experience for those guys, and because you never know in a football game or a football season who's going to be called upon. So we just got to have guys ready.
Speaking of Jesse, how big was it to be able to see him be able to respond to adversity? He came in, he threw that pick six, but it didn't feel like it rattled him. He went right back. You talk a lot about quarterbacks having a short memory.
Yeah.
It felt like, at least from the booth, that he was able to come back and bounce right back.
Yeah, that was one of those deals where, without getting in the blame game, just that there was, a couple things that happened on that play, and he had to get rid of it and kind of just throw it up. So, that's how it worked out. But he does a good job, and he doesn't get rattled very easy. Got him back out there, and we started playing fast again. That's kind of the hard part about getting in that situation is you want to run your offense, you want to do what you do, but at the same time, when you have a lead like that, you're trying not to run it up, So if you got to worry about if you're playing fast or you rubbing it in or anyways, we decided, hey, we'll go back out, we'll go play fast. We started running the ball. Our backup running backs were in there, did a good job. Jesse did a good job running the ball. So I think it's important, for not just the quarterback, for anybody. A lot of times you'll see if somebody has maybe a big mistake or, something happened negative, we'll try to come back out and go right back to them just to so they know, hey, we still have confidence in you.
You talked a little bit about it just there about the running your offense and running that fast pace, and when you do have to pull back. It's funny because a lot of people go into the fast pace, but that's really where we start.
Right.
And so how hard is it on the kids when you do start pulling back? Are they it's like holding back the dogs a little bit?
Yeah, they hate it. Anytime, whether it's if we're up in a game and we start trying to slow it down, or even if it's during, the first half, first quarter, whenever it is, and maybe it's a third down play and I'm slowing it down, trying to think, look at my play sheet and see what I want to do. They're like, come on, coach, let's go. We like to play fast. So that's just something that our kids have bought into from, a long time ago, when Coach Thomas was here and we really started the NASCAR stuff, really playing fast. And it's funny just through the years, and they get irritated with us sometimes when we start playing slow. So I think we still have to do what we do and be us and try to attack because, like you said, those kids, they go out and practice. They put the time in too. The backups, those guys that don't get as much time, they practice just as hard as the starters do. So when they go in, we need to give them the opportunity to go run our offense, run our defense, the way that we practice every day.
One of the funniest things, 3 years ago when we played Whitesboro, and Mark and I went back and listened to those guys broadcast, and to hear them talk, they're trying to recap the play that just happened, but they can't get it done because we're right back up to the line. Yeah. And after about 3 times of that, they're like, we've never seen anybody. We can't even talk. Yeah. I mean, they were just so frustrated. They couldn't get the play out. So that was pretty funny to kind of hear their side of it. Mark and I obviously used to it at that point. But just to hear another team's perspective, you don't realize we do actually move really, really fast.
Yeah, we were really happy watching the film last week. We're really happy with our tempo. A lot of times we can tell. We feel like it may be slow on the sidelines, and we're yelling at, hurry up, let's get the ball snapped, but there's a lot that goes into it. And you have to have a quarterback that can communicate because we ask so much of the core. We try to keep everything as simple as possible for the linemen because we just want them to, not that they can't think, but we just want them to be able to line. Their jobs are most important, run game or pass game. So we want it to be easy on them. We just want them to get lined up and let the quarterback tell them what's going on. And then the quarterback has to get formations and tell the plays to receivers and whatever it is to the linemen. So we're really happy with our tempo right now. When you watch on film, that's one thing we look for Saturday mornings is we're looking at, when we're snapping the ball, what's the defense doing? Are they lined up? Are they still moving around? What are the coaches doing on their sideline? Because, I know one time last week against Borger, I think it was in the second quarter. We're moving the ball. We end up scoring, and I think we had a jet sweep down our sidelines for a big gain, and then you see them trying to sub in. We're back on the ball. They're trying to get 3 more defensive linemen in the game, and the coach is running down the sideline. He's yelling. 3 of those guys start on the field, and we're already lined up. But he starts yelling at them to come back because they weren't going to have time. So they get off, and then we score the next play. So that's what we want, We always kind of kid around. We're serious, but we're kidding around, We're trying to snap the ball while the defensive coordinator's still signaling in the play. Guys are trying to get lined up. Maybe guys are puking on the other side of the defensive side. We're trying to get them gassed. So we can definitely get better in it, but I like where we're going with our tempo right now.
We chuckle because you haven't got to watch it yet, I know, as we talked about it before, but we sat down with those offensive linemen this week, and they talked about how they like to go fast and the advantage that they get when the defense isn't even set, because obviously the trenches are won with pad level. And Charlie goes, there's nothing better than when those guys aren't set and they're upright and you can just put them on their back, and make them like it. But they also, to your point, they talked a lot about DJ and the ability that he has to communicate with them. Mm-hmm. And when they don't hear it, how they start yelling echo, and he makes sure before he snaps that ball that they know exactly what they're supposed to do. And so it's cool to hear you talk about it because they echoed those same sentiments in that interview with the O-line.
Even the keep it simple part.
Even the keep, yeah.
Which
He's
they all
like,
took.
look, we keep it simple. They don't want us to think. They
That's
just
right.
want us to hit
Yeah,
people.
that was the funny comment. They don't want us to think.
That's right.
Yeah.
Which is probably kind of hard for a couple of them because you got some analytics between Turner and Blake. Some of those guys they like to think, and so getting them out of that rhythm or into that rhythm where they don't have to, and all they have to do is play football is probably kind of nice.
Well, it's just like you said. I think we do have some smart linemen. Really intelligent, bright kids, but we just want their job to be easy. As far as like I said, it's the most important. And if they're confused, they're not going to be able to execute their job. If they can just get up to the line of scrimmage and they can start seeing the defense. Turner has to make calls as a center. If they can just see the defense and then hear DJ tell them what's going on, then that makes their job easier.
Absolutely. So, talk a little bit about the results from last night with our underclassmen playing.
The junior high, our middle schools went over to Canadian, and what I heard, they did a good job. Lost both games, but played decent. It's only their second game. Kind of weird scheduling this year. Most teams have probably played 2, if not 3 games before last night. So we had our middle school teams played 2 weeks ago, played their first game, and then we had a bye, and then they played last night. So first road game for all those 7th graders, obviously, but that's what those are for, is to get better.
Right.
We always tell win or lose, whether you go undefeated or you lose every game in middle school. We always, we tell those kids that, there's no state championships crowned in middle school. Sure, you want to win. That's always good, but what we're trying to do is learn our offensive and defensive systems and come through and just get better at those. And I know our junior high coaches are great. They're a huge benefit to what we do, every Friday night because, we start this offense and this defense in 7th grade, and that's the main thing, is trying to teach those kids what we do, and they'll get better at it. And that's, all of our groups, we told that to our senior group last year. When they were in 7th grade, 8th grade, they struggled, and as far as win-loss, goes. And they got a lot better as freshmen, a lot better, and they just kept improving in our system, and, it had a great year. So that's what you're ultimately trying to get to, is just to understand your systems better. So when it really matters, when you're a junior and senior on the varsity Friday nights, that's when it matters most. So I know they'll do a good job this year. Great junior high coaches. Freshmen won last night, a good battle. It was low scoring for the longest time. And I think I don't remember what the final score was. It was like 19-8 or 6?
19-8, yes.
19-8. Great game. In fact, I think we were down in the 4th quarter to start the 4th quarter, and we got a big turnover, and got a touchdown out of that series, and then got some defense. I don't think gave up a score. I think Dumas' only score was on a pick 6. So good for them to get in, have a game like that. That's a good thing about playing some of the little bigger schools, is you're having to get in the fight a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You have to get in the fight. Maybe be a little undersized at times, but learning how to battle and overcome some adversity. Really proud of those guys. And JV got a big win last night too. Played really well. Did some good things again. I think gave up 1 touchdown, on defense, and that's what we want to be known for. As much as, especially me as a guy, I said offensive guy. I know if we can be known for our defense, that gives you a chance every single time out. And just like last night in the freshman game, it's a battle. Defense is giving us a chance until we finally make the right plays on offense. The JV game, I thought offense did really well. Kind of a good balanced game between, with the offense and defense. Just really proud of those kids for, fighting and coming out with the win.
Those sub-varsity teams from Dumas were big.
They were big.
So it was good to, obviously Parker's freshman, so it's fun to get to. Last year we were in junior high, so on Thursday nights we were gone, and it's cool to see the progression. You can really begin to see it now as freshmen, getting to watch Parker and his group and knowing them so well, but also seeing JV and just this. I don't think sometimes as fans, you watch your kid and then you go to Friday nights, but it's really a tiered speed and
it is
of the game, and the physicality increases with each level. But man, our kids have really I mean, they love to be physical, don't they?
They do. You know, I've lots of people that I talk to every week, you know, just brag on our kids about how hard we play and how physical we are and how fast we play. And, you know, I think going back to that, not thinking too much too, you know, I think we do a good job. Like you go into track season, we have some fast kids just like anybody else, but I don't know that we just absolutely stand out. But to me, our speed looks at a little bit different levels sometimes on Friday nights. And, you know, I think when you play with a clear head, you play faster, you look faster. So, yeah, you know, it's fun watching kids develop each year and how much better they get from year to year, you know, and whether that be just, you know, just the speed, the physicality, maybe there's some detailed things that we work and just our passing game every single day when we start practice with our drills, our noose drills, our pat and go drills. That's hard as a 7th grader to really figure out, and you get a little bit better as an 8th grader, a little better as a freshman, and then a lot of times with sophomores they make a huge jump in some of those things, and you're like, wow, these kids really got better. You know, it makes you feel good as a coach that you just keep coaching the details, even though how boring it gets sometimes. You got to keep coaching that stuff because they'll get better at it.
So tonight we head over to Dumas, and we were just talking. We haven't played in Dumas on a Friday night,
No.
at least not since I've been here, and I'm
pretty sure this is the first game between Bushland and Dumas. I'm pretty sure we've scrimmaged them a couple of times, but I think this is the first game.
So this is a big game. It's 2 levels up, really. They're 4A Division
Yes.
1. We're 3A Division 1. Kind of Texas, Dave Campbell's kind of put us as the game of the week up here. We won't talk about their prediction, but they put us as the game of the week. Gave a lot of kudos to Bushland in that game, and really their eyes are kind of on that game to see both teams and see how they play. But how exciting is it to go into a new environment? But how do you get the kids ready for that? Because as you guys were describing, I've never been there, but they put on a pretty big show, and they have a big outpouring of folks that come to the game.
Yeah, you know, we're expecting a great atmosphere again. You know, I can't say that we haven't had a good atmosphere yet. You know, and that's when you're playing well and you're doing good things, people are going to follow you. That's just the nature of the beast, and it creates a fun atmosphere every Friday night. And that's what we have to, you know. I think I'm talking with our coaching staff, really proud of those guys because I think they've done a good job of getting our kids building up and ready to go at 7 o'clock on Friday night, and. You know, I've done it before, and I've, you know, probably made mistakes as a coach as far as trying to hype it up too early, and then you kind of hit your peak earlier in the week, and then when you get to Friday night, you don't have much left. So, you know, our kids do a good job of that too, understanding that we have things to work on, things to improve on, you know the scouting report, know how to line up to everything they do. But ultimately, we're trying to hit that crescendo Friday night at 7 o'clock. And, you know, pretty sure our kids know they're not going to – you shouldn't need too much – of a pep talk, you know, for hopefully any Friday night, but just because of each and every Friday night, you know, on its own is a blessing to have because you never know, you know, when it can be gone. So when you work too hard, you know, for that to waste, you know, a Friday night. So I think our kids know that, you know, what we talk about is we're not going to make this Dumas game any bigger than any of the last 4 games. Or any smaller, any less than those last 4 games. And we'll do the same thing every single week because as soon as you start doing that, that's when you hit those highs and lows. We want a consistency. So we're not going to build this game up to any more than what it is. It's going to be a good game between two good teams and with a good atmosphere. Like you said, they're going to have the pitchfork with the flames firing up and you know, the motorcycles, you know, it'll be different, the east-west field, and the sun will be in somebody's eyes there on the west, sitting in the west for a little bit. But, you know, we're gonna keep preaching the same thing we've done all year, and just it's the game of the week because it's the only game of the week for us. You know, so it's the biggest game, and we're gonna go out and play fast, physical, and have fun, and see what happens.
You know, you talk about scouting report. Obviously, Dumas, they like that quarterback can. They do a lot of quarterback option, and they'll pull that ball as late as they can pull it sometimes. How much do you really? It seems like our defensive line's pretty dang disciplined, and they each know their job. They're prepared. But how much more do you emphasize that going into a week like this? Because Abanez, that quarterback, if we make a mistake and we give him a lane, he can be gone fast.
Well, that's what makes, you know, a good offense tough is, you know, when you can do multiple things. You want to try to, you always look at every week at trying to take away what they do best, you know. Obviously, they have the quarterback, you know, he's just an athlete, you know, he can run. He's shifty, he's good in space. He can make you pay for it if you're not doing your job. 2 or 3 good running backs that run hard, run physical, they're tough to bring down. And then they can hurt you in the passing game, you know, if you let them. So, and this because they have speed out there. You know, they have some, you know, kids from track last spring that can run. You know, they had a mile relay that went down to state and did really well. I think they even placed, maybe got third or pretty close.
I think they were third state last year.
You know, they have some speed, and like you said, it's kind of assignment football. You know, you have to do that. That's every week, but you know, that quarterback, he may look like he's going to give it, then all of a sudden he pulls it out the backside, and if you're not there doing your job, he's gone. You know, or you know, as soon as you think they're just kind of running it, and you're in man coverage, and then you don't do your job, and they hit you on a slant or a go, it's a big play. So, you know, that, like I said, that quarterback he scored. He threw touchdowns last week. He rushed for some touchdowns. He had a pick 6, and I think he had a
kick return or punt return.
I think is what it was. So he's an athlete, and you know they're tough. You know, as you watch film, you always try to find the weaknesses in teams and try to exploit that and try to attack it. And there's just not many. You know, they're just solid. You know, they don't beat themselves. You know, from an offensive standpoint, looking at their defense, they line up well all the time. They fly to the ball. They're physical, and they just don't really give you anything where you're like, we can go right there. So, you know, it's going to be a battle of, you know, just executing offense versus defense on both sides.
Yeah, my expectation is this will be a pretty defensive game.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes. Because to your point, I think each team plays a lot of chess, right? Get those moves in place to make those plays. What's their defense looks like? What type of defense do they run? And is it any different than maybe some of the ones we've had up to this point?
Oh, they're a 3-4 base defense, and they run a lot of man coverage. So you always have to expect and plan for other things that you don't see, just because as soon as you don't, they end up doing something different. But you know, as far as fronts go, you know, we've pretty much seen, you know, whether it's an even front, a 4-man front, an odd front, or a stack or whatever. Coach Espy does a good job with our linemen of going over those every week just in cases. You know, if we're playing a 3-4 team, they'll also kind of look at the stack just in case, or a 4-man front, just because your rules can, you know, change a little bit, you know, with that. So coverage is the same thing. You know, even though we've seen predominantly man coverage, you know, they can come out a little bit of zone, but it's, you know, most of our offense is built into that. Doesn't matter, you know, it's really play calling. You know, if they start changing things up, it comes down to play calling, and then a lot of times going back to the quarterback, him knowing the difference between man or zone and going through his reads a little bit different. So I think our kids are ready for it. You know, they're, like I said, the good, fast, physical defense that lines up well, and they're going to make you earn every yard for sure.
You know, sometimes I don't think we give DJ enough credit or talk about enough of his pre-snap recognition. And I think that when you look at his touchdown to turnover ratio, I mean, I think we're at 12-1. He's thrown 1 interception all year. And, you know, I talked to Lance Leonard about it yesterday. He may not lead the area in yardage because obviously Jesse's gotten a lot of snaps, but that's the thing, is being able to know that your quarterback's not going to make that mistake and not turn the ball over and give you the next play. And how much have you seen DJ's growth in that area?
Oh, he's been great. You know, that's one of the biggest things I think as a coach is, you know, especially for an offensive coordinator, is you want to make sure you're on the same page with your quarterback. You want to be, as much as if you can get to where you're both thinking the same thing, then that, you know, that's generally good for you, because as a play caller, well, you know, what the play caller's seeing and thinking, that's one thing. That may be great. You know, you can get them right where you want them, but if a quarterback's not thinking and seeing the same thing too, it doesn't matter. You know, last time I checked, you know, myself or Coach Avon's not the ones out there taking the snap from shotgun. So to be on the same page with those guys is huge, and that takes, you know, film work. You know, watch film on Saturday with those guys, some during the week, you know, before we go out for practice, we kind of go, hey, you know, remember this and that, this is how they line up, this is what we expect to see from them, here's what we're wanting to do. Just the preparation. DJ's preparation is good, number one, and he's just got high football IQ. You know, and you put those two things together and you're coachable, he just does a great job of setting us up to be where we need to be.
So we talk a lot about offense, talk a lot about defense. Talk to us a little bit about special teams and how important that is to the game, because we've gotten great field position all year long. Defense puts us in good position for that, but special teams also gets us in those good positions. When you have half the field to deal with rather than 3/4 of the field, big advantage.
Special teams are huge and get overlooked way too often, and whether it's, working extra points, extra points are huge because, you're either getting a point. Every time you score a touchdown, there's a point somewhere. You're either getting a point or you're giving a point away, so that's why you go back to last week and having Sid come in and do what he did was huge. To go 6 for 7 first game out on the road, coming up from the JV and make a 30-yard field goal, and then being able to play some kickoffs to make it tough on them, or several they couldn't field, just at tough spots. That's the field position game was huge there. Defense, getting stops, getting good punt returns, giving the offense the ball with half a field, that's big time. Even if you're sputtering on offense, sometimes if you only have to go 40 yards as opposed to 75, that's a big difference. You don't have to execute quite as accurately if you have to go 40 yards as if you have to go 75 or 80. So that's huge. Kickoff return, I feel like we've been a threat. We've had the one return for a touchdown, against West Plains. Zach Zundel almost popped one last week. We gave him a hard time because he got tackled by a 90-something number kicker. Anytime you bust one and you're one guy to beat and there's a 90-something that tackles you,
you got to beat him.
You're going to catch heck from everybody, I promise. But, no, Zach did a great job on that. But, field position, especially in a game like this, it's big every week. But in a game like this, where you expect it to be really tight, you have to be sharp, whether you're just fielding a ball on a kickoff. That's what the first thing we talk to our kids about on kickoff return. Number one, we got to field the ball. Because when that ball, it's not a basketball, it's not perfectly round shape. When it hits the ground, it takes weird bounces, So we've got to field the ball because you've seen too many times where even on a missed kick by a kicker, and that ball hits the ground and checks back up like a pitching wedge back to the kicking team and they get on it, that's a huge momentum change. And that's probably what special teams, more than anything, they can be huge momentum changers either for you or against you, And for the most part, we had a little fake punt last week where we got stopped, 4th and 4, we sprint out, throw it to Aiden Sawyer over there for the first down, end up scoring a touchdown. So, that's a credit to our kids and our coaches. We spend time, with our special teams every day. We stay after practice and we do a special team circuit. We work on kicking, snapping, holding, all that stuff, receiving onside, pooch kicks, and we try to cover it all the way when we get in a game, our kids are prepared for it.
Something fans may not always think about, but that fake punt was set up weeks ago because as soon as they saw DJ take off, they crashed because that's what they've seen on film is DJ's going to run. And when he pulled up, you talk about a perfect play call, knowing that they had already seen what they saw on film. Golly, you couldn't execute it any better.
And to have your punter or have your quarterback as your punter.
That's a benefit.
That's huge, right?
That's a benefit. DJ's gotten, just watching him at practice every day, I don't want him to have to punt ever during the game, but watching him in practice, he's getting better and better at that, each week. And he's just it's a threat, Anytime we play somebody and they have a quarterback back there, we're going to see the same thing tonight with Dumas. It's always you have to be ready for something, whether it's running or throwing, some type of trick, play, fake punt off of it. It just adds another threat for sure.
Well, it forces that defense up, right? And they can't do the coverage like they might, so there's no return
and then
for the
when
most
they do
part.
punt it, you don't get as much a return. You don't have as much blocking.
Exactly.
So
and we talked about it last week in the game. They had scored, they got a stop, they punted, and for a minute it felt like they had the momentum. And then Cole takes that punt return down to the 15. Soto punches it in, I think 2 plays later, and from there it was back off to the races. But to talk about Sid for a second, because obviously I know you mentioned it, but I don't want to overcomplicate it, but man, he stepped into a pretty hard role. There are not many kickers in the entire state that are Weston Forbes.
Yeah.
And so to lose him and the expectation that came with that, how big was that for y'all as a coaching staff to be able to see somebody else step into that? Now obviously, you had to game plan a little bit different because
Right.
he's not going to punch it through the end zone
Right.
like Weston did. But how big was that to see him be able to come up and have some success?
That was big for him. You know, we really proud of him because that's, like you said, it's not an easy situation to step into. So, you know, last week he just came in and he normally, with the JV, he practices offense and defense because he plays both of those on the JV. But, you know, last week we just had him come in and, look, you're kicking all practice, you know, and while we're talking about that, you got to, you know, appreciate Weston Forbes too, because Weston could have just shut her down. You know, he's trying to help
He
his
was out
team
there
still.
with him.
He's out there with him
Absolutely.
every day, coaching him up while we're working offense and defense. Those two are over there. He's over there in his brace. You know, Weston doesn't have to be out. Shirley doesn't have to be over there helping Sid, but he's over there the whole time, helping him out, giving him advice, showing him where to kick it, how to kick it. And, you know, I think that week of work with Sid, you know, really paid off. And that's what being a teammate's all about. And that's what you try to preach to your kids. How can you help the team? Yeah. What's your role? How can you help the team? Whether it's in athletics, whether it's later on in life, in the business world, whatever. How can you help your team get better and succeed? And Weston still is helping us right now. He helped us last week, came in and did some things and just really did a good job of helping, giving him confidence. And that's the thing. I don't think you never know. You could kick all you want in practice and hit as many extra points day after day after day and all that. When you got to roll out there that first time after a touchdown with people in both stands and a band's playing and all that kind of stuff, it's a little different. And that's when you just have to rely on your training. And that he just went right through it, punched it through, and just went from there. I think he was 6 for 7.
Yep.
Even the one he missed was a good kick, came off his foot well, made a 30-yard field goal, and was effective on kickoff. So just really proud of Sid.
Was that field goal? Obviously, I think if I remember right, it was you had a manageable fourth down. A lot of times you may see you like to go be
Right.
aggressive. Was that as much about getting him a kick in that environment already up just to see what he could do?
It was. You know, like you said, we like to be pretty aggressive there, and especially with Weston, have full confidence in him making that. But I like if it's manageable, if it's 5 or less, we feel like we have a chance to get it. And I was going back and forth, and I was like, oh, do I give him a chance?
We were talking about it.
We did.
We had the win. I was sitting there thinking, we have the win. I'll go back and forth, and Coach Love's over there, and he's like, do it now. Give him a chance. Give him some confidence. So it's all right, field goal. Here we go. And he punched it through.
I'll tell you, seeing that picture of him and all those girls he got it, I think he's loving the varsity kicker life.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. He deserved it. You know, that's awesome that our students and student section were chanting his name, and you know they understand the game, they understand the situation. You know, and that's big for a kid like that to come up. Hopefully, he can continue to do it.
And obviously, we want to pray for Weston. I think his surgery's Wednesday, right?
28th, I believe. Yes.
Yeah. And so.
For sure. Well, Coach, let's wrap this up. So kickoff 7 o'clock in Dumas. As always, we prefer everybody to be at the game, but if you can't, we'll start around 6:30ish. Well, we always say 6:30ish because it seems like every week something's going to give us a glitch. We'll start a little bit later, but we'll kick off our show at 6:30 to get things kind of started, and game starts at 7. So, Coach, good luck tonight. Good luck
Thanks.
to the team.
Appreciate it.
So, for Coach Reynolds and Stephen Lyles, we're going to sign off. Y'all have a good week.
Go Falcons.